A funny thing happened on the way to this recording, and it's just serendipity. But I thought I'd share it. Just over the weekend, I was looking at, my list of books that I need to really get into, and there was one that has been on my list for a long time called Supercommunicators. And as we got on this session with Darren and myself, it just so happened that I explained to Darren that I just got this book. Darren uses the book consistently in the coaching work that he does and the facilitation work that he does. So I thought it'd be really useful, Darren, to maybe get a sense of what it takes to be a super communicator as a leader, as a coach.
Absolutely, Andre. I love it when we have these, coincidental happenings that happen quite frequently. And it's a fantastic book. I discovered him through some podcasts. His name's Charles Duhigg, and the book again is called Supercommunicators. And he's the best-selling author of a previous book called The Power of Habit. And what I really love about him in this particular book is he's a journalist, an investigative journalist, and he was promoted at the paper he was at the time. He was promoted to the role of manager. First time in his career he was a manager 4 or 5 years ago now, I guess, and he sucked at it by his own admission. He couldn't believe how hard it was to lead. He's a journalist, he communicates really well, and he just hit this wall on how hard it was to connect with people and connect with them in the context of being a leader, being a manager. And that led him to explore this book, doing a 3-year in-depth investigative journalist approach to what makes some people good communicators, some people not good communicators, and this idea of people who are super communicators. And he defines super communicators not necessarily as the person, the Tony Robbins-esque type of person at the front of the room, or the JFK inspiring people. That may be it. But how he defines super communicators are people that connect really well with other people. He gives the example, and we all have super communicators for us in our lives. There are people who can be super communicators to a much broader spectrum of people. But if you think about when you're having a really rough day or a really great day, who's that person you want to call? That's the super communicator in your life, and vice versa. On what days are you receiving those calls from people? You're the super communicator for them. And kind of what happens is that these super communicators, while there's lots of elements, is that most of them, it's learned. They often became super communicators because they struggled with communication themselves. And through it, they understand is that there's these kind of 3 kinds of conversations that we have. This is kind of the foundation of it. Of course, goes in lots of additional areas, but there's these 3 conversations that we tend to have either separately, or they can certainly be all intertwined. And the first kind or category is practical, logistical. It's kind of heard one study that said that, parents of children under 18, about 70% of the relationship conversations are logistical, right? Who's picking up what kid at what time? And so just that real practical, tactical kind of stuff. The second kind is more exploratory, right? It's an emotional element to it. There might be a creative part to it. That might be the emotion. Or it might be, hey, I'm struggling here. I really need to talk through something. And then the third is just straight up social, just connecting. Who are we in this relationship here, right? Like just connecting. And so what super communicators tend to do really well is, number one, they can identify what conversation are we in right now. Either it might be a purely practical one by its nature, or they could have all elements of it, but they're able to transition in and out of it almost intuitively, or becomes intuitively. And that's part of how we become super communicators with people in our lives, is we start to understand that, right? We start to be able to figure that out as we go. And so that's really important, to be intentional. Okay, what are we talking about? It goes back to our set and setting previously. Is this going to be just a practical, we need a project update, let's see where we're at? Or is there some issues we need to talk through here, right? Or do we just need some connection time? Do we just need to get to know each other? Or is it all 3, and how do we manage that? So it's being intentional and really picking up on the cues. Where are we in this conversation? And he also identified that a huge percentage of conflict comes from a misalignment of what conversation we're in right now, right? One person in the relationship just wants to have the practical, let's fix it, let's just get to it, or the other person just wants to talk it through. It's the emotional part of them processing, is having that opportunity to get it out. And where the conflict comes in is when people start to feel like they're not being heard. You're not listening to me. You're not hearing what I'm saying, because literally you're listening for different things. And when we're dialed in to properly understanding the type of conversation we're having, so much easier to make that connection, to really hear not just the words, but what they're really saying, what's the meaning behind the words. And then we can guide them, right? If we're in that kind of emotion part of the conversation, if they felt heard, we can lead them to the practical. What are we going to do next? Or vice versa, if we need to, if we have that connection. So that's what super communicators are. They have that ability to connect deeply with people, and predominantly because they're able to identify one of the three kinds of conversations that they're in, or in a given conversation at any given phase, what phase are we in?
Yeah. Well, Darren, thanks for sharing some of those key points in Supercommunicators. It's actually whetted my appetite even more to dive right into that book. But isn't it great to sit down and just be a little bit more thoughtful about the conversations you're having? And we come back to intentionality all the time in our sessions of years, being really clear about your intentions. And then make sure that the form follows the function, basically. So great tips. And yes, I'm going to look forward to jumping into that, Darren. Thank you. Super communicators. And I guess that's what we do in our sessions that we run in our Leadership Accelerator program, is we have different angles, if you like, of looking at what it takes to be a super communicator, whether it's through storytelling or the conversations and managing difficult meetings. It doesn't matter. There's 18 different modules that we look at. I think they all have an angle on being a super communicator. Take a look.